Hi, my name is Alexander David S. Peter. I live in Richmond, California. I'm shooting this video in late November of 2024. I was diagnosed in late February of 2018 with type 2 diabetes. And on election day this year in 24, I got a second opinion and was on my diagnosis as having essentially early diabetic retinopathy. And so, if you know anything about diabetes and negative diabetic outcomes, um, coupled with the fact that I've since latter part of 18, had like seriously uber control over my blood sugars. I've had for many, many years now a sub 5% A1c. Without medication, solely through diet and exercise. I did not lose a real significant amount of weight. I did lose some weight initially, but I've gained some of that back, but in different, basically form, more muscle, essentially. But that statistically, this should be really perplexing and odd, and my statistical probability of having eye issues is just like remarkably very, very almost impossible. So how did this happen? I'll get into that, but the first thing that I want to bring up is why I'm doing this. I have a diabetes Facebook page called Diabetes Bike Brigade of the Ecumene, and I have cycling friends basically sprinkled all over the world. And some of them know that I haven't been posting. Some of them also know that I've been going through some things, but they don't know exactly what this is. And I felt really uncomfortable initially about talking about it. Rolling through sort of stages of grief on this whole thing, and so I feel now comfortable enough to basically really talk about it. And so that's what I want to do. And it also, just that if you're new to this and you just find this, I you may be horrified by the story, or you may not. But um, uh, what I also wanted to sort of talk about is, how I got here and what I gained by getting to the place that I am now with my blood sugar management, and how that story is basically affected by this new diagnosis. So as I said, it not costing me not costing me vision damage now, but in not expected to in the future. But if my management regime really falls apart, it will definitely come, and it's already there. There's already hemorrhages on the blood vessels in my eyes caused by blood sugar issues. And so, how did that take place? There's basically three working scenarios, and one is that it was basically that I had it in 18 and it was not found then. And then, and I've had it all this time, and I've maintained and I controlled, and I sort of put that damage in hibernation, if you will, because of my blood sugar management. And then the second being is that it just basically at some point after 18 it took place, but it was a delayed effect from the damage prior to 18, prior to the initial diabetes diagnosis. So, and then the third is that I'm just incredibly statistically just freaking unlucky. And so, in to sort of talk about that is that when they tell you when you're initially diagnosed to keep your blood sugars down and to avoid negative diabetic outcomes, that they show you a graph, and the graph is just like basically even progression in terms of the numbers of your A1c, which is essentially a marker of your average blood sugar level, to basically 6.5, 7.5, 8.5. It just goes up, and then they also on the same graph have lines for negative outcomes like foot neuropathy and eye issues. And they basically are close, at 6, 7, and basically just start separating. And then there's a geometric progression where the lines separate so that the probability of getting retinal damage is basically, is from 8 to an 11 is quantitatively different. The 11 has just a way higher probability. So at sub 5%, it should be like negligible, not even on the chart, kind of thing. And so so that emotionally took a big jolt because I had a great deal of pride in my management. I for 6 years pretty much there's not been a day when I don't think about my blood sugars, and I don't think about what I'm eating relative to what I'm doing. I'm not exaggerating. There is no day off the program. I don't eat flour, rice, fruits, artificial sweeteners, and of course, sugars, added sugars. I essentially eat veggies and meat proteins and nuts and the calcium appropriate to for those nuts and I bike between 6 and 7,500 miles a year for the last 4 years, except for this last year, but that's sort of another video. So, and there's no off day. There's no pizza here, beer there, nada. I drink an electrolyte tablet when I do a century ride, a 100-mile bike ride. And that has 1 ounce of, 1 gram of sugar per 16 liters of water. So, I'm doing a century ride at the same time, so it's really negligible. I also, in case I bonk, I carry Cliff Bars that do have a lot of added sugar in them, I must say, and a lot of carbohydrates and some protein. But they're only in bonking situations on a bicycle, and I, on average, eat one once a year. And so basically, it's been very hard because I would have thought that going through the process, if I was to stop what I'm doing, that there would be layers, there would be elements of, basically moving out of numbers that are normal, quote unquote, to pre-diabetic to diabetic to, there would have been pharmaceuticals, metformin or insulin reintroduced. I was only on metformin, got off in the first 5 months. So that there would have been layers into this, and I went from 0 to 60 from thinking that I have things like I've been told that I'm like the healthiest patient my doctor has, and having pride in that, and basically already finding myself in the deep end of the swimming pool with actual damage that's already taken place, and more importantly, the diagnosis. So once my numbers change, I think there could be immediate ramifications for that, or the beginnings of immediate ramifications. So, and also, I think people outwardly see my journey and see it as, wow, Alex is doing everything right, and that thinking everything is right, and it's not, and it wasn't before the eye diagnosis. I can be symptomatic from time to time. Basically, it seems like without reason sometimes. I feel like I'm a very fine-tuned expert of my body and how it modulates carbohydrates and sugars, and it's inexplicable sometimes that I can get really low off the bike. I concede that everybody can bonk on a bicycle. and that it's so it's a thing that I still consider myself diabetic, even though my blood sugars fall within the normal range. But I know from experience in a quantitative way that basically my body adapts to carbohydrates and and sugars differently. Weird. And so I take control of it, and it hasn't. Well, it causes problems from time to time, but it's I manage it, and so. That being said, I think the thing that may horrify people is like I'm an individual who's done just about everything that you could do, and I still get this. And so it may have been that I just always had it and just didn't know it. And I think that in some sad way and some very unwanted way, this validates the processes that I put in place. I just have to say that when I initially started this journey and when I developed a mature sort of process for dealing with this, people told me that I was crazy and that why are you doing this? This is overkill. You have a mild case of diabetes. Like, get over it. I had a hernia. I literally, that's verbatim what I was told by a family member. Not to knock people who have hernias, but I think that if you're diabetic, it's a different type of flying altogether. So, and I think that in some way that this validates the intensity and the rigor in which I have maintained for years now, which has become a way of life, and I really psychologically couldn't step away from it, but that it's full steam ahead, and I just want people to know is that 2025 is going to be a big year for the bike, and I still have goals, and I'm still not eating your food, and I'm just going to keep on doing what I'm doing because that's what my doctor told me to do. So I just wanted to let you guys all know that this has happened, and I've asked some highly technical questions of my of the ophthalmologist, and I'm still waiting for answers on that, and I'll probably come back with some more specific information on that. But this was a big thing for me because it in an emotional context, it was very much very similar to the experience of being diagnosed with diabetes in the first place. It was that big a thing for me, and the advice that I got from my friends that was most helpful is something that I already knew, but I need to internalize them, if you will. And that is that actually you may perceive otherwise, and most of you don't know my previous life before my diagnosis, but that my diabetic journey does not define me, and its outcomes don't define me. And I think human beings are too complicated for any one thing to define you. I think that it's the aggregate of how you approach adversity and how you treat other people. And so I've tried to do my best. I'm imperfect. We all are. And the emotional hurt was that I had allowed myself to have too much pride in what I've achieved, and that it became basically this conception of myself, and so this was a very hurtful and frustrating and inexplicable sort of reality check, and it still hurts, and I just wanted to share that. So thank you for my friends who've helped me through this, and I just want to say that I obviously I still love to ride a bike, but that the life changes that took place after my diagnosis of basically rechanging all of my friends. 80% of the people that I know, it seems now, are involved in the bicycle world, and they're great people, and I really just cherish their friendship and their advice, and the life experiences that I've got through this journey have just been incredible, of leading like 800 people bike rides, co-leading a bike ride that big with somebody, biking, 147 miles in a day, doing solo century rides, riding across the Golden Gate Bridge from my house in Richmond every morning, or when I can do it. All those things, and the bikes themselves, of course, and the bikes that were given to me, and that helped facilitate this journey that wouldn't have been possible without that, and without people's help and advice and love. And so I just want to say thank you, and God bless. And did I get through this without swearing? This is good. It's a good sign. So take it easy. Shalom.